Imagine waking up in a medieval town about 700 years ago. The sun is just coming up. A few merchants are setting up their stalls. Bakers are pulling fresh loaves from hot ovens. Farmers are leading carts full of vegetables through muddy streets. Somewhere nearby, a church bell rings through the cool morning air. At first glance, it seems peaceful. But in the center of the town square stands a wooden structure that reminds everyone that life in the Middle Ages could be very unforgiving. It is called the pillory. And if you found yourself locked inside it, your day was going to be much worse than everybody else's. The pillory was one of the most common punishments in medieval Europe. Unlike many punishments that happened behind closed doors, this one was designed to be seen. In fact, the whole point was to make sure everyone saw it. The device itself was simple. It was usually made from heavy wood. A person would stand behind it while their head and hands were locked through holes cut into two wooden boards. Once the boards were closed, there was no easy way out. Then came the truly unpleasant part: the waiting. You see, the pillory was not only about physical discomfort. It was about public shame. Medieval authorities believed that embarrassment could be just as powerful as pain. They wanted people to become examples. If you stole something, cheated customers, sold poor quality goods, spread false information, or committed certain other crimes, you might end up standing in the town square while everyone stared at you. And medieval people had a lot of time for staring. There were no smartphones, no television, no internet videos showing cats knocking things off tables. So when someone appeared in the pillory, it quickly became the most exciting event in town. Crowds would gather from all directions. Children would point. Merchants would pause their work. Neighbors would whisper to one another. Some people came simply because they were curious. Others came because they felt the criminal deserved punishment. And some came because they enjoyed the opportunity a little too much. The crowd often brought gifts. Not the kind of gifts anyone wanted. Rotten vegetables were popular. Spoiled fruit worked well too. Mud, garbage, and animal waste occasionally joined the collection. If something smelled terrible, there was a decent chance it might end up flying toward the prisoner. Suddenly, being hit by a tomato sounds much less funny when that tomato has spent 3 weeks sitting in the summer sun. For hours, the person in the pillory had nowhere to go. No shelter, no privacy, no escape. They simply stood there while hundreds of eyes watched every movement. The physical discomfort could be severe. Standing in one position for long periods made muscles ache. The wooden frame could rub against skin. If it was hot outside, the sun beat down endlessly. If it rained, there was no cover. Winter was even worse. Cold winds moved through the square while prisoners remained trapped in place. Imagine standing outside in freezing weather while everyone else gets to go inside near a warm fire. Not exactly a relaxing afternoon. Sometimes the punishment became far more dangerous. Although officials usually intended the pillory to be a form of humiliation, crowds could become unpredictable. Angry townspeople occasionally threw stones instead of vegetables. Some prisoners suffered serious injuries. A few never survived their sentence at all. In theory, the authorities controlled the punishment. In reality, once a crowd became excited, control could disappear quickly. This was one reason medieval rulers liked the pillory. It allowed ordinary citizens to participate in justice. The public became part of the punishment itself. The criminal was not only being judged by officials, they were being judged by the entire community. And in medieval society, reputation mattered enormously. Most people spent their whole lives in the same town or village. Everyone knew each other. News traveled fast. Gossip traveled even faster. If you were placed in the pillory, people would remember. Long after the punishment ended, neighbors might still talk about it. The embarrassment could follow you for years. That lasting shame was often the real goal. Authorities hoped that public humiliation would discourage others from committing similar crimes. Every person who walked through the marketplace saw the consequences. The message was simple: behave yourself or you might be next. Interestingly, not everyone placed in the pillory was hated. Occasionally, a prisoner was actually popular. When this happened, crowds sometimes reacted very differently. Instead of throwing rotten food, friends might bring drinks or offer encouragement. There are stories of townspeople showing sympathy towards certain offenders. If people believed someone had been treated unfairly, the pillory could become awkward for the authorities. After all, public punishment works best when the public agrees with it. Still, these cases were rare. Most of the time, standing in the pillory was a miserable experience. The punishment spread across many parts of Europe and remained in use for centuries. Different regions created slightly different versions, but the basic idea stayed the same. Lock someone in place. Put them on display. Let society do the rest. From a modern perspective, the pillory may seem strange. Today, many justice systems focus on prisons, fines, or community service. Public humiliation is usually not considered an acceptable punishment, but medieval people viewed things differently. They lived in a world where public reputation shaped nearly every part of life. Honor, trust, and social standing were valuable forms of currency. The pillory attacked all three at once. As the day slowly ended, the crowd would eventually drift away. Market stalls would close. The noise of the square would fade. The prisoner would finally be released. Their neck would ache. Their hands would be sore. Their dignity would probably be somewhere under a pile of rotten cabbage. And yet the memory would remain. For medieval towns, the pillory was more than a wooden frame. It was a stage, a warning, a lesson, and sometimes, unfortunately, a form of entertainment. The next time you feel embarrassed after sending a message to the wrong person, just remember this. At least nobody locked you in the middle of town and handed your neighbors a basket of rotten vegetables. Now, after spending a day in the pillory, you might be hoping medieval punishments would become a little less unpleasant. Unfortunately, medieval officials had plenty of ideas. And one of their favorites was something called the stocks. At first glance, the stocks looked a lot like the pillory's smaller cousin. Both were made of wood. Both were placed in public spaces. Both involved locking people into uncomfortable positions. And both gave bored townspeople something interesting to look at. But there was one important difference. Instead of trapping the head and hands, stocks usually locked a person's ankles. Sometimes the wrists as well. The prisoner would sit on the ground while their legs were secured between heavy wooden boards. Simple, effective, and surprisingly miserable. The stocks could be found almost everywhere. Villages had them. Towns had them. Even some tiny settlements kept a set nearby, ready for anyone who broke local rules. Unlike the more serious crimes that might lead to the pillory, stocks were often used for smaller offenses. Maybe someone was drunk and causing trouble. Maybe they started a fight. Maybe they disturbed the peace. Perhaps they refused to pay a fine. Or maybe they simply annoyed the wrong people. Medieval law was not always consistent. What earned a punishment in one village might be ignored in another. Life could depend heavily on where you lived and who happened to be in charge. Still, once a person was sentenced to the stocks, the experience followed a familiar pattern. The prisoner was brought to a public location, usually somewhere busy, a market square, a village green, a road where plenty of people passed by. The goal, once again, was visibility. Punishment worked best when everybody could see it. After all, medieval authorities wanted the lesson to spread. One person sits in the stocks. 100 people watch. The message reaches everyone. It was an efficient system. Rather unpleasant for the prisoner, of course, but efficient. Once locked in place, the waiting began. Hours could pass slowly. Very slowly. Modern people sometimes complain about waiting 10 minutes in line at a store. Imagine sitting on cold ground while your feet are trapped in wood and half the village walks past you. Time probably felt endless. The physical discomfort added up quickly. Legs became stiff. Muscles cramped. The lower back started to ache. Changing position was difficult, sometimes impossible. Even sitting comfortably became a challenge. And unlike modern chairs, medieval punishment devices were not designed with ergonomics in mind. No one was asking prisoners whether they preferred additional lumbar support, whether made everything worse. On sunny days, prisoners baked under the heat. On rainy days, they got soaked. When winter arrived, the cold became a serious problem. Medieval Europe could be brutally cold, especially for someone forced to remain outside for long periods. A person sitting in stocks during freezing weather might lose feeling in their feet long before their sentence ended. Then there were the animals. This is one detail many people forget. Medieval towns were full of animals. Dogs wandered freely. Pigs roamed streets. Chickens pecked around marketplaces. Horses passed constantly. When you are sitting at ground level and unable to move, suddenly every wandering animal becomes a potential problem. A curious dog might investigate. A chicken might climb nearby. And if a pig decided to stop beside you, there was not much you could do about it. Dignity was already in short supply. The animals rarely helped. Of course, the real challenge remained the crowd. Just like the pillory, the stocks depended heavily on public participation. Some people simply watched. Others laughed. Children sometimes treated the prisoner like a strange form of entertainment. Adults occasionally joined in. Insults were common. Mocking comments even more so. The prisoner became a living display. A reminder of what happened when someone crossed the rules of the community. Sometimes people threw things. Rotten vegetables appeared again, because medieval crowds seemed remarkably committed to finding uses for spoiled produce. But in many cases, the humiliation hurt more than the physical discomfort. Remember, most medieval communities were small. People knew one another. Your neighbors watched. Your friends watched. Your relatives watched. The baker who sold your bread watched. The blacksmith watched. The farmer whose cart passed every morning watched. Everyone knew. And everyone remembered. In a world where reputation mattered deeply, public embarrassment could have long-lasting effects. The punishment might end after a few hours. The gossip could continue for years. This was exactly what authorities wanted. Fear of shame often kept people obedient. A fine might empty your purse. A whipping might leave scars. But public humiliation attacked your social standing. And social standing was incredibly important in medieval life. Yet the stocks were not always cruel. Occasionally, townspeople showed kindness. Some prisoners received food. Others were given water. Friends might stop to offer comfort. Family members sometimes stayed nearby throughout the sentence. Not every crowd was hostile. Human nature, then as now, was complicated. Some people enjoyed seeing punishment. Others felt sympathy. Many simply followed whatever mood the crowd happened to have that day. There were also cases where people spent far longer in the stocks than originally intended. A short sentence could become dangerous if authorities neglected the prisoner. Extended exposure to weather, hunger, and dehydration created serious risks. For elderly prisoners, the experience could be especially difficult. Even younger and healthier individuals sometimes suffered lasting effects. What seems like a relatively mild punishment on paper could become much harsher in reality. And yet, for centuries, the stocks remained popular. They were inexpensive, easy to build, easy to maintain. Most importantly, they served the central goal of medieval justice. Visibility. The punishment was not hidden. It happened right in front of everyone. Justice was meant to be seen. As evening approached, the village slowly settled down. Market stalls closed. Animals returned to their pens. The crowd thinned. Eventually, the wooden boards were unlocked. The prisoners stood up carefully. Stiff legs protested immediately. Muscles complained. Pins and needles probably arrived without invitation. Then came the walk home. And perhaps that was the hardest part. The punishment was over. But everybody had seen it. The memory followed them through every familiar street and every future conversation. In many ways, that was the true sentence. The stocks were never just about trapping the body. They were about trapping a person's reputation. And in the medieval world, reputation could be harder to escape than any wooden frame. As we continue our journey through the harsh world of medieval punishment, things are about to become even more permanent. Because next, we will encounter a punishment that left a mark people carried for the rest of their lives. Quite literally.